Hello all, welcome to Scalable Data Mining uh, course. Today we are going to discuss about big data and Hadoop. So we are going to discuss what is big data, what are the issues with big data, what is Hadoop, what is MapReduce, and we'll discuss one example MapReduce program. So a motivating application, say there are 20 plus billion web pages which you need to process, which make about 400 terabytes of data. Also, let us assume that a computer reads data at the rate of 30 to 35 megabytes per second from hard disk. At this rate, it would take about 4 months to read this entire data if it were to read only from one hard disk. Also, note that uh, with the current hard disk capacity for a standard system, you may need about 400 hard disks to store the data. And you possibly need much more hard disk space to do something useful with the data. So the question is, how do you process the data? So a useful architecture that has come up is a cluster of commodity, let's say Linux nodes. Okay, you could just have these at your own data center, or you could get a set of commodity Linux nodes on the cloud. You can rent it on the cloud. Okay, for processing, and these are connected over your standard commodity Ethernet network. Uh, and let's say this is the hardware that you want to use to process the data. Now, this is just an architecture of a typical data center. So, data center has typically these machines which are arranged in racks. So, each machine will have a CPU, will have its own memory, and it will have an attached disk. Okay, and there will be multiple such machines. Okay, which will typically be there in the same rack, and they will be connected by a switch. And then there may be multiple such racks, uh, each with their own switches, which may be connected by a faster switch. Okay, so this is a typical data center architecture. All of us know that writing a distributed program is challenging and time consuming. Okay, so if we want to process the the data using such a distributed setup, one has to write the distributed program, and this is challenging. So what are the challenging aspects? Okay, so first challenging aspect is, how do you distribute the computation? So how do you design the program such that which part of the logic should be distributed, which part of the logic should be centralized, and so on and so forth. Okay, the second challenge is how to write such a program. So what framework to use, what programming language to use, and so on and so forth. And the third important challenge is that when you run such programs uh, on a industry scale, many a times what happens, or even on a scientific scale, sometimes what happens is machines fail, and the way to think about it is, let's say you can say that there are all these servers running. So one server, let's say, may keep on running continuously. So suppose there is no power outage, nothing, still it has to stop running. Even if you keep it up, it will stop running after some time. Okay, so let us say this time is about 3 years, so about 1000 days. So if you have about 1000 servers in your data center, you will lose on an average one server per day. Okay, so that is the problem. So as your servers scale up, or as your computation scale up, uh, you see that some part of the servers will routinely fail. Okay, so this is not a one-off problem anymore. This is a routine problem. Okay, so more formally, what are the challenges? So the first challenge is scalability. Okay, so you should be able to write the program in such a manner that when you have a small amount of data, it should be able to process it fine. Okay, but when suddenly your data size becomes large, your system should not fail. Only thing you have to do is purchase more computer, and your same system or your same program should be able to work. The second challenge, as I explained, is fault tolerance. So you should assume that when the program is running on multiple servers, some of the servers may fail. It should be cost effective, so it should run on commodity hardware. You should not have to purchase some very special hardware parallelization techniques or things like that. You should be just able to use, let's say, the servers that you purchased earlier when you did not uh, have a lot of data, or you should be able to use servers which are just available for cheap on a cloud. Okay, so it should work on commodity hardware. Okay, now a major part of the fourth point is ease of use. So a major part of distributed program development is that the programs typically are very long. Okay, that is because the even though the actual program logic may not be that long, actual program logic may be pretty small and pretty simple, and the reason is that there are a lot of these auxiliary issues, some of which I have mentioned, okay, which you have to take care of. You have to take care of communication between the servers. You have to take care of scheduling the jobs on the servers, waiting for different jobs to finish on different servers. Okay, all these things you have to take care of. So you have to take care of communication, you have to take care of synchronization, and you have to take care of scheduling. Okay, and lastly, uh, you can probably work with some existing database management systems where distributed database management system where you don't have to bother about these things, but then you lose some amount of flexibility. So you may not be able to process unstructured data. Let's say you want to process graphs, let's say you want to process sequence data, let's say you want to process images, videos. There are all kinds of unstructured data uh, that you may want to process, and these you may not be able to do using uh, the existing solutions. So because of all these factors, the programming paradigm and the software framework called MapReduce came up. So this is what we will discuss in this class. Okay. So now what is the first problem of uh, processing big data on a cluster? The problem is that copying data over network takes time. Okay. So what is the solution? The solution is bring the computation close to data rather than the data to the server where you want to process. So your computation framework, how you schedule those, should depend on where the data is available and where the processing power is available. Okay, so this is one of the problems. Okay, and secondly, you know. There are two things. So one is, even though in a particular server data may be available, but that server may be busy doing some other computation, so the server may not be available, or the server may have failed because of whatever reasons, and then the server may not be available. So you need some kind of redundancy of storage for reliably computing, within a certain amount of time. Okay, so MapReduce addresses these problems. Okay, so the whole MapReduce framework is designed to address all these problems. Okay, so it's an elegant way of working with big data, and it has, I would say, uh, two major user facing components. The first one is a distributed file system where you store the data in a distributed manner across a cluster, and you can access that data, copy, read, write, view, etc. And you should have a programming model which will be able to uh, perform, or you should be using which you should be able to specify the computation that you want to perform. Okay, now again, the problem with storage infrastructure is, the same. How do you store the data persistently? And the answer to that is that uh, you need, of course, to store it in a distributed file system. Why do you need to store it in a distributed file system? Because as we discussed in our architecture, uh, our CPU, memory, and disk are all distributed. So it is not like all the disk space is there in one node. Okay, there are such systems also, but that is not the system we are looking at. We are looking at a distributed storage system. So in order to manage such a distributed storage system, you need to have a distributed file system. And there are many distributed file systems like network file system, etc. But here the use case is very typical. The use case is that we typically have huge files, so maybe in hundreds of gigabytes to terabytes of file, and data is rarely updated in place. Okay, so this is important, that you are not going to change records in this file system. Instead, what you are going to do is read and create new records. Okay, so reads and appends are more common. Okay, so this is the scenario. So sometimes this scenario arises also because of streaming nature of data. Okay, if your data is arriving in a stream, then this scenario arises. But in general, uh, this is a good abstraction to start with for a distributed file system, since there is as such no order amongst the data. Okay, so what is Hadoop? Okay, so now Hadoop is open source implementation of the paradigms that we discussed till now and more. So what is Hadoop? It is a scalable, fault tolerant. So it is scalable, fault tolerant distributed system for data storage and processing. Okay, so it provides all of this. So it provides you a system which is scalable and fault tolerant, and it can store and process data on a distributed set of machines like a cluster. Hadoop has three core components. Okay, so the first core component is the Hadoop distributed file system that we discussed. The second core component is Yarn, which denotes yet another resource negotiator. So the full form of Yarn is yet another resource negotiator, and this is the component which handles job scheduling and resource management. So resource management keeps track of which resources in the cluster are available, and keeps track of which resources in the cluster are available, and job scheduling based on this information about which resources are available, takes care of where to schedule a particular processing job. And lastly, there is a Hadoop MapReduce framework. Okay, so this is your programming paradigm, or you can think of it as a kind of library which allows you to implement the MapReduce programs in a uh, in an easy manner. Okay, so that you can process your data in a distributed manner. So it's a framework. It's an implementation of the MapReduce framework for distributed data processing, and it is open source with a large community. So now coming back to what exactly is MapReduce. So as we discussed, it's a method of distributing tasks across multiple servers. It was proposed in a very well celebrated paper by Jeff Dean and Ghemawat in 2004. Uh, it consists of two developer created phases. Okay, as a developer, you have to create these two phases: the map phase and the reduce phase. Okay, and in between the map phase and the reduce phase is the shuffle and the sort phase, which is common and is implemented by the Hadoop MapReduce framework. Okay, so the user or the developer is responsible for, so given any particular problem, the the user is responsible for casting the problem into the MapReduce framework. So as a developer, you have to write the logic such that it falls into the MapReduce framework. Okay, and also multiple MapReduce jobs can be chained. Okay, so one can run one set of MapReduce jobs, and then output of that MapReduce job can be fed into a second set of MapReduce job, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in order to understand what is a MapReduce job, let us take, or what is the MapReduce programming framework, let us take a example task and proceed. So our example task is that we have a huge text document. Our task is to count the number of times each distinct words appear in this text document. Okay, so for example, one may want to analyze web server logs to find popular URLs. So how many times does a URL appear in the web server logs? Okay, and web server logs can be pretty huge because so many people are accessing a particular website. Okay, so how will you typically do this? Suppose the situation is such that file is very large, okay, but the number of unique words is very small. Okay, so each of the words repeat many times. In that case, you can just store a data structure of this form. You can store it in a hash map where you store the words and you store their counts. Okay, and then you make a pass through the file. You don't store all of the file in the memory. Okay, but you can store this map. Okay, so for each, you can distribute the file into multiple servers if you want, and for each of the file you can create such a map which is easy to create. Then, and such maps will be small because the map is fitting into the memory. And then what you do is you merge such maps. So for each word, you just add up the counts from the different servers. So this is one way of doing things. So here I am proposing another way. The other way of doing things is that you do it in 3 stages. In the first stage, you get the words out of the document. So this is very much in line with how Unix processes the data, or a Unix user is processing the data. So this is the Unix pipe. Okay, and now so this program extracts the words from the document and spits them out into the standard output. This program takes that standard output as input and then sorts the word one after the other, and then outputs the sorted list, which is again piped through to this third program, which counts the unique occurrences. So unique minus c counts the unique occurrences of each of the words. Okay, so so system structure wise, this is how MapReduce is going to work. So how is that so? You can roughly think that this part is the map part and this part is the reduce part. Okay, so this is how the system is going to work. Okay, and the idea here is that even though now it may seems like inherently sequential process, this is actually naturally parallelizable, and we will see how it is parallelized. So just to recall, what are the components? So the components are, so there is a piece of code or program which has to read sequentially the data. Okay, uh, the data has to be read sequentially only into each mapper. Okay, then there is the map part, which is the first user defined program where you kind of extract the things from the data that you are going to eventually care about. Okay, so you extract those things and the rest of the data you can ignore, and then you are going to do something called sort and shuffle, which is similar to you can think of it as a group by key operation. So you group the similar records that you extracted during the map phase into a same group. Okay, and then finally you send each of these groups to the reducer. Again, you have a custom logic at the reducer end, where the reducer works on a group of data. Here you basically aggregate, summarize, you can filter or transform, you can do all your operations, and then finally you write the result. Okay, so your outline of a MapReduce program stays the same. Okay, every MapReduce program looks like this. What changes is the logic of the mapper and the reducer. A mapper has an input which is a sequence of records like this. Okay, so every record has a key and a value. As we shall see, the key is not always important in case of MapReduce job, but it may be sometimes important when you are chaining a MapReduce job. Okay, uh, but nonetheless, in general, a mapper uh, takes a key value pair as input, and this combination of key value pair is called a record, and it produces one zero or more, actually zero or more key value pairs as output. Okay, so this is the format of a mapper in the map step. Okay, and similarly the output key value pairs from the mappers are grouped using this group by key operation into a reducer. So a reducer gets a key and corresponding to that a list of values. So sometimes these are provided as multiple key value records with keys sorted. So you can just compare the key to find the values which are together, and sometimes it is just a list of values along with the key, but the idea is the same. You get a set of values or a list of values corresponding to a key together. So here the idea is that all values corresponding to this key will uh, get to a particular reducer. So this is very important. Reducer. Okay. So I think I have described this already. So a mapper takes as input a key value pair and produces 0 or more key value pairs. Okay. A reducer takes a key and a list of values and produces a key and a value. Okay, again 0 or more keys or values. A reducer may also not produce any output. Okay, so this is the logic behind the map reducer. Now let's come back to our example, the word counting example. So how do things work? So you have this big text document and you have this set of uh, so you need to decide the uh, mapper output key value. Okay, so here what the mapper is going to do is it is going to tokenize this document. So after tokenizing this document, it is going to get a list of key value pairs. Okay, and so this is the list of key value pairs. Okay, and sorry, it's going to produce a list of words which are the keys here, and so this is the list of the words, and then it's going to produce also the count of that. So initially at the mapper output level, the count of every word is going to be just 1. Okay, because every word is appearing once in this list. So if the word the appears multiple times in the text, so it will appear multiple times in this list, but the count of each of these words will be 1. Okay, next comes the group by key phase. Okay, where this part is taken care of by the MapReduce framework. Here the records produced by the mapper are grouped together using the key, and in this case the key is the word. So all records containing the same word are going to come together. Okay, and now this is fed to the reducer. Now remember that all records containing the same key are going to be fed to the same reducer. Okay, so the reducer is going to take this list of records. In this case, depending on the format, either it can be crew followed by 2 ones, which is a list of values and 1 key, or it could just have a list something like this: crew 1 followed by crew 1. And then the reducer logic says for all the records for which the key is the same, just add up the values, and that produces again a key value pair where the key is the word and value is now the count of that word in the same document. So this is how a MapReduce program is going to solve the word count problem. Okay, so this is the pseudocode for the mapper and the reducer. So for each word w in value, so in this case the input value is just the sentence. Okay, so for each word w in value, emit word comma 1. That is the mapper logic. And the reducer logic is it initializes the count to 0, and then for each count which is value in v's, you just add the value and emit key comma result. Result stores the final total value.